Hello and welcome to the BuzzCast. This is Dave Meyer, and I have with me today Jenna as well. Hey, Jenna.
Hi, Dave.
Hi.
And Internet.
Yes, you'll see us in just a moment, but this is our splash screen, and we're going to go through a couple of housekeeping details right away as we wait for people to join us. So if you are dialed in from home or on the interwebs, the proper way to connect with us is to go to, oh, and actually I didn't get Jenna on here. This is not Andy and Jessica. This is instead Dave and Jenna. So that's us, but here's a couple of seconds about what we do. BusyWeb is a digital marketing agency, and we're located in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and love to help out our clients with web design. We're a WordPress web shop, but then in social media and digital marketing, we also offer a suite of tools via the Buzz Builders marketing services that we do. And those include email marketing, content writing, advertising, search engine optimization, and of course, and why we have our expert Jenna here today, we do social media engagement programs. So that is us. We are going to talk through the following things today: social media current state, kind of what's happening and what's going on. And then we're going to talk about where the big folks are headed: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, and then we're going to go through some new networks. Now, if this is your first time to a BuzzCast, this is slightly different than our normal busy webinars. These are conversations more than anything else. So I'm going to be conversing with Jenna on our team, and Jenna is going to help us. We're also going to be flipping back and forth between the video and the audio. So I'm going to switch over to Google for a second so that we can show you how to join and how to ask us questions. So if you do have questions, you can do that via the hashtag BusyWebinar. And so I am actually going to open up a new window. We're just going to go to busywebs.com/event. And from there, you'll be able to go into today's event, which is probably where you're watching it from right now. But if you click on this page, it'll go in to the share page, and then you'll note that you're probably watching from right here. But if you scroll down, you can see information on this hashtag. So if you'd like to ask us questions during the event today, the best way to do that is to connect with us on the Busy Webinar hashtag. And you can simply click there, and it'll open up a new window with the search box for that hashtag. And so right now, we don't actually have any questions per se, and I wouldn't expect that. But if you do, here's how to connect with that. You just search for the latest on the hashtag Busy Webinar. All right, so I am going to switch just a moment. I'm going to stop screen sharing so that you can see us. And here's me. Hi, Dave and Jenna. So this is how you're going to hear from us and what to do. So Jenna, just as a start, you're our social media expert, and you do a lot of the content for us and a lot of the integrations. Anything that really sticks out for you before we get into like the overall stuff? You know, what if you had a crystal ball and when we ask our clients or when they ask, anything that you think that people really need to know about?
Yeah, I would say since we're talking about social media in a business context, it's really helpful to have your own personal profile before you get started. I understand a lot of people don't want, that's a natural resistance. You know, they don't want to be on Facebook. I get that. I respect that. But I think it's really important when you are planning to use it for business, to use it on a personal side. It's going to familiarize you with, you know, what the platform is, what it does, what it can't do, more than reading articles about it will.
Right. And as we go through some of the examples, some of these you simply can't set up a corporate one at all.
Correct.
Or you can set it up as a corporate, but it's a personal login. Like Twitter is the biggest example, right?
Yeah, and Facebook as well.
And you need to set up a personal before you can get into a business Facebook. And then Pinterest and Instagram, you can do business, right?
Correct.
So, you know, those things make it a little bit easier, but you always do have to have your own. So great point. All right, so let's get into a little bit of detail. And I just want to talk high level, and we're going to skip back and forth between the screen share. So as you see this, that's what we're going to focus on. So here we go. And I'm going to present to everyone, and here we go. Okay, so as we look through this, then the current state in social media, really, in my opinion, social media is the new norm for businesses.
Yeah.
So if you used to think that having a website was enough, or that your brochures or even email marketing was enough, people are more than ever expecting to be able to connect and to chat with you. And I saw something really cute as I was doing research for this. If your website was a handshake, your social media account is greeting your customers with a hug.
Oh,
so
I like that.
I thought that was kind of cute.
Yeah.
And so, think about that, because if you want your first interaction with the client to be a handshake versus a hug, then you know what to do and how to focus. But, really, I think the more you can make a personal connection with the people that matter most to your business, the better off you're going to be. So, just as a warning, you need to think about that, and you need to make sure that you're planning to be able to make a good connection. Another way that I've heard social media described pretty accurately, I think, is it's like a cocktail party.
Yeah.
And you don't barge into a cocktail party and just talk about you. And so, that's the same thing. You need to ask questions, and your job as a social media manager, and Jenna, I'm sure you can talk about this much more than I can, but you're more the party host than you are a person with a megaphone standing on the corner. So
Agreed.
How has the current state, and do the things that are on the screen, advertising, video, live feeds, integrations with messaging, and customization for users, are any of those things becoming urgent in your opinion?
I would say you should definitely start paying more and more attention to video on Facebook. It's really taken off. A lot of other networks do have video as well. Oh, hello, it's us again. But Facebook is really the one leading the charge with that. They've got the, just instant play video as you're scrolling down your feed. Sure. Any video that is hosted on Facebook will start.
Right.
They've got the live video now. They have 360-degree video.
Right.
They're doing all kinds of crazy thing with video. So it's not quite trickled down yet to every business page. But I think it's going to get there in the near future.
And it's interesting that, some of the things that would seem to be out of reach for businesses, like the 360 video.
Yeah.
The big secret of that 360 video is all you need to do is do a panoramic shot on your phone and upload that, and that automatically uploads as a photo or as an image that you can use to drag around inside of Facebook.
Yeah, it's a lot easier than it looks, especially even with the live video. All you need is an iPhone or whatever cell phone of your choice that can record. As long as it can record video.
And that's
you can
super easy. We've tinkered with it. Some of the initial problems that I had with live video, like it only being a square, that's now fixed. If you hold your phone horizontal, it's very easy to shoot landscape, which is better for PCs, of course, and it's just easy to flip your phone sideways. So I'm a big proponent of always shooting landscape whenever possible in video.
Yes, agreed.
But it's just little things that make it really easy to manage and maintain.
Yeah.
So great points, and we'll talk more about that once we get into Facebook. As far as advertising, as we're doing client programs, are you seeing anything like what's the best network for our clients right now? What seems to be happening? I've heard things in the hallways, of course.
Yes.
But like even Google versus Facebook, it seems like Facebook is eating Google's lunch for a lot of our clients.
Yeah. The thing with Facebook that makes it really attractive is that you can very narrowly dial in on who you want to target. Google, you pretty much can only target people who are searching specific keywords. Within that you can narrow it down. So for example, for us, if we wanted to target the search, web design, we can narrow it to just people in Minnesota, but that's about it. Whereas with Facebook, you can get, almost scarily specific. It can just be people who live in Champlin who drive a Mazda who also watch The Walking Dead. You know,
Wow. Yeah.
It can be just about anything. Facebook really pulls a lot of information from its user base in terms of demographics and also activity. So that makes it a lot better for advertising, because instead of just, you know, throwing it out into the void, you're getting your ads in front of the people who are the highest potential to actually take that next step and buy. That's
cool. And yeah, it's interesting, especially because it seems like especially in hyper competitive fields, the ones that are the great playing field leveler is Facebook in that regard, because especially with some of our, for our electrician clients or folks that are in legal fields or things where people are really, really, really aggressive on Google, there are just, it's hard for a small business to compete because they get outspent every single day.
Yeah.
And you can just be hyper targeted instead of hyper spendy on Facebook ads in order to get you the same kind of buy-in or the same kind of result.
Yeah, you definitely have more of an opportunity on Facebook. What we find a lot with Google, you know, it depends on industry, but just to use retail, for example, the big boys, so Amazon and Target, you know, almost always they are going to be the ones who can afford the ads, and they also will purposely hike up the prices so other people can't. Yeah. On Facebook, they can't really do that. You know, they're still advertising, but because you can dial in, you can really, you know, hit that specific group of people. You're not as much of a threat to Amazon or Target as you would be on Google.
Right.
So you can really,
it is pretty crazily simple. Let me zoom in just a little bit so that you can see this. But, you know, the Facebook promotion tools are incredibly simple. And this is now the new place to see this. If you're on Facebook and managing your own page, again, you need to be an admin. So if you're not an admin of your particular page, you wouldn't see this. But you can promote specific things. And if you're in the boost area on posts, you don't have quite as much granular. So if you're in a post, if we scroll all the way down here, we have a lot of content on BusyWeb's website as well. We should. But as you look at this, here we go. You know, instead of doing boost post here, doing the promote and clicking around into like promote your page, promote your business locally, get more website visitors, promote call to action, manage all promotions. This is where you can really start dialing in and getting an idea of who you specifically want to reach. So if I click on this, it's going to open up a new window. And that window is going to give me all kinds of micro targeting options. So between ages, locations, interests is where things really get crazy. And I can drill all the way down into, you know, if they have school age kids and they're members of the PTA and they're searching or interested in Ferraris, you know, that's a pretty narrow niche, right? But if you're trying to go for that kind of connection, it makes it super easy to do so in Facebook. And I think the last number that I read was that Facebook's revenue was something like $7 billion last quarter. So they're doing okay making all of this stuff happen. So it's really becoming a big deal as far as just the reach and the timing of advertising. So video and live feeds, we talked a little bit about. The deeper integrations with messaging and especially the chat bots are interesting. We haven't had any clients that have specifically raised their hand on that yet, but I think you're going to see that, especially as the tools get a little bit easier to manage, that customer service via an always on easy connection is going to be pretty interesting for folks. I'm going to stop sharing just so that we can see each other again, but opportunity for us to send messages out and essentially to set up a call script. I mean, I think there's probably going to be a lot of discovery back and forth on this because it's almost back to the old bank IVRs or the automated responders, you know, press 1 to get here and 2 to go there. And while yes, that is going to save managers a lot of time, it's going to frustrate the heck out of customers. Yeah. So, you know, while doing chats, and especially in some e-commerce applications like hey, let me ask you a bunch of questions about your clothing style and about your sizes, and I'll get you right to that perfect t-shirt. That's okay. But once you're talking and trying to do like real customer support and really interacting with people, there's just never going to be a true replacement for customer interaction.
No, and this was actually just to promote ourselves a little bit. When Trigby and I did the social media fails of 2016, I believe it was Tesco ended up on there because they did that. They created a bot to respond to people's customer complaints, and people figured out real quick that it was a bot. The answers were very static. Someone would register a complaint, and it would say, thank you, customer name. Please call us at phone number. So you want to be real careful with that. I think they're just not at the level of sophistication quite yet. There's always an awareness, that you're chatting to a bot and not a real person.
And if you think about it, again, going back to the old bank IVRs and the phone numbers, I'm talking about the dial in and press 1 for this, 2 for this. You'll be on hold for a bunch of time. People just want to talk to people.
Yeah.
And so having an instant chat would probably be a lot more useful to a lot of folks, or just being responsive.
Yeah, that is huge on social media. People expect that you are going to answer them. And if you don't respond right away, right away being at least within the same business day, ideally within the same hour, they're going to get mad.
Right. And I've noticed on our Facebook page, and Jenna, you manage this for us, but when on the days that we're really good, when we respond right away, we get, this page is extremely responsive, and Facebook gives us boost for that. But if someone's off, or it takes us more than an hour to get back, then it dips into like the 85% range all of a sudden, and it says this page is mildly responsive. So it's important to be on the ball with this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So awesome. Okay, well, switching back again, let's do the screen sharing and continue on with a couple more themes. And very interested in your feedback from the folks on the line, by the way. If you do have questions or thoughts, we'd love to hear them, and or if this format is working for you, because we're trying new things, breaking new ground. The more useful this stuff is to you, the better off we all are. So tell me what you think. Okay, so skipping back over then, as we look at where we're headed in social media, this is kind of my crystal ball. So Jenna, of course, feel free to loop in, but absolutely, mobile devices are the new kings of all of this. Yes, you need to plan for computer screens and having mobile responsive stuff where it works on wide or horizontal screens as well as vertical is important. But really thinking about the interaction where 80% of people are searching for you and using your information. If you're on Snapchat or if you're on Instagram, it's just a no-brainer. You can't do anything other than mobile. Yeah. But I think making sure that you're designing all of your content mobile first is important. If you haven't already taken steps to secure your website, HTTPS is the only way to have your website set up anymore. Google is about to start putting a warning on all websites that are just straight HTTP. So if you've been hosting your website for years on GoDaddy and have never looked at it, all of a sudden and soon, Google is going to say, warning, this website may be insecure. And it's a step away from having them simply not show you at all. And secure certificates are really easy to install and do. You need to talk to your webmaster about them. But we include secure hosting or a secure SSL certificate with every single one of our more than 300 clients now. It's just important. And so if you're not working with someone that knows that or that can do that for you, you need to take that into account. AMP on Google and the web and social media stuff being decentralized, this how to change a light bulb thing, right? If I Googled how to change a light bulb and Google told me, here's what you need to do. It didn't have the #1 result, and the #1 result is 4 ways to change a light bulb on WikiHow. That's a highly optimized article, but Google didn't take it anywhere anymore. It just gave you the information. And publishers are struggling with this because Google AMP gives clients or gives Google a way to get content much faster, and faster is better, and you get better results from that. But it also unhooks your entire website from search results.
Right.
And so for a lot of customers of ours, they really need people to get to their website. So if you're a plumber, for example, and you're talking about some easy tips on how to diagnose leaks or repairs, having an AMP article is just going to answer the customer's question without getting them back to your website.
Yeah.
That's kind of the point. So you need to be careful with that and how you approach it. So, we're struggling with that. We don't do AMP by and large because we try to drive clients to their website, and it's in very limited situations that we turn to AMP only, because if the content is branded, then it's okay, but it needs to be actionable from within the Google screen. So it's really, really tricky on that. Talking to networks, chatbots, we talked about already. Hardware, you need to start thinking about the opportunity for Alexa or Google Home or Siri. If you say, and I should cover my phone to say, "Hey Siri," and it popped up right there. When you say that, your website can provide helpful information, but you need to submit that content. So having easy information where you can allow it to say, Alexa, how do I do this? So doing that kind of content, having that kind of information readily available. Okay, Google, I want to do this. That's all really interesting stuff that companies can now do. We talked a little bit about VR and 360. There are tools available to do the fully immersive VR, virtual reality, but you can do a 360 video just by shooting a panoramic shot on your phone. And so, that's more and more available, and you have to kind of adopt the mindset of a professional tinkerer. You have to always be interested and ready to play when you're on social media, and take some of that wonder that a lot of us digital marketing veterans have kind of wore off. It seems like it's a grind now for us, but you really have to be tinkering and keep your eyes on the horizon. Are you seeing much or other things that I'm missing here, Jenna?
This is a pretty, comprehensive list. I would just emphasize the targeting and tracking. I think especially with Facebook, they're more and more relying on predictive behavior. We don't want to get into politics too much, but we all saw this with the fake news on Facebook. That was just an extreme, byproduct of their algorithm. Right. But they're still, Facebook is being a little cagey about what the emotions do. If you can like a post now or you can love it. But rumor has it that those are going to start playing factor in what you see. So if you love something, you're going to see more things like that. If you hate something, you're not going to see things like that anymore. So I think, which I'm not sure how I feel about that, but that's the direction that Facebook is definitely going in.
And when you think about it empirically, that's really interesting, and it's helpful from a big picture, Zuckerberg level kind of thing, right? Where you can be, people only want to see what they're actually interested in. But on the same side, that's a new challenge for small business, because big data, massive data, there are data farming shops, and one of the big ways that Trump won the election, and I don't think I'm talking too politically here, it's just one of the ways that the election turned out the way it did is the Facebook and newsfeed algorithms were specifically targeted, and they found people that were easily activated. And they had lists of these people, and they only called the people that they knew they could get to show up at the polls.
Oh, definitely.
So if you were a registered Democrat, or if you even have left-leaning posts in your Facebook feed, you never got called by anyone from the Trump administration saying, or the Trump campaign saying, hey, we really want you to switch your vote over, because they knew that there was no chance. And so the fact that big data knew exactly who they needed to encourage to show up, I mean, that's where you see that tip.
Yep.
And it's even further with gerrymandering and all the other stuff where they knew exactly where they needed to go in order to get the biggest pop. And they could do that easily without the full popular vote. And again, depending on your definition of fake news and all that, I'm either speaking completely crazy or, it makes sense. But the fact is that big data was an integral part of this kind of content. And so what does that mean to a small business? You need to think about that, because you're getting out leveraged. And the easy answer and kind of the cheater answer is just be yourself as a small business. And the immediacy and the instant connection that you have, and the fact that you have very specific clientele that you're serving, is kind of the grand leveler of playing fields.
Yeah. And I think people are starting to get real burnt out on that type of, predictive. Again, it's very easy to tell when, something is large scale. So you go to Target's Facebook page, all of their content is so polished. It's fantastic. I'm not knocking it. It's great content, but it feels very robotic.
Yes.
So I think people are looking for, those personal local businesses. Your content may be, it's not going to be Target level, but it's going to attract people because it feels real.
And honestly, that's one of the reasons why Facebook advertising and other boosted kind of level things are gaining so much traction, because that does let the little guy compete with the big folks. Because you can say, okay, I want to reach these specific people. And with a $50 investment, you can hit those 2,400 people by being very thoughtful about who you're trying to reach.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and on the big data side, the big Target example was, a couple of years ago in the New York Times, they talked about, this woman went to Target and she bought a few items and she got coupons sent to her home that said, congratulations on the new baby, and here's what to do. The woman was 14. And the father freaked out and made a big deal out of it. But she was actually pregnant. But they knew she ordered prenatal vitamins and like something else. And they're like, oh, game on. And they knew about it before the father of this daughter did. So there's that kind of level of knowledge out there. And if you're willing to tap into these networks, you can actually get some of that predictive.
Yeah, you just don't want to go too far. I think in your example, there's a fine line here. Yeah, don't be creepy. It's nice to get a little recognition and, a little bit of personalization, but you don't want to, come off as a stalker.
Right. And it's easy to do because you have the knowledge and you have the data.
Yeah.
And you need to just be careful so that you don't miss that. Let's skip ahead a little bit. And, Facebook, we talked a little bit about this, but I want to go through some of our favorites, and these are the big ones. So we're not going to talk about, the way down deep in the weeds stuff. We're not going to give you easy tips on how to score it with Ello, because, the 18 people that are on Ello already know how to do it. But, for Facebook, 1.7 billion people are on Facebook, active every day. And on Messenger, there's just shy of 1 billion people that are messaging people on Facebook every day. This is huge.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing and what I'm thinking is, there's more focus that it's going to be given on ads. If you want to be successful in Facebook, you need to start tinkering with live video, this instant articles and all the things that they're doing to, frankly, battle Snapchat is really interesting. So the instant articles, and then being deeper with the analytics is really interesting. Anything else that you're seeing as just killer tips right now, Jenna?
Let's see. I think we dug into Facebook pretty thoroughly.
Right.
But again, just the amount of information that you have about people on Facebook is really the big differentiator between it and some other social networks.
Right.
And if you have to pick just one, if you're only going to do one, almost always I would say Facebook, because of the user base and because you can target people.
For sure. It's the granddaddy. And I think if you're tinkering and if you want to try something, this is an easy spot to get to. One caveat: if you're specifically trying to reach younger audiences, Facebook has traditionally, for the past few years, been weaker in that area.
Correct. Yeah, they're going to another network, which I'm sure will be
talking
later on in this presentation.
Yes. So Twitter, I think and I feel that Twitter's going to have a hard year.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's simultaneously the public utility of social media and of the web. It's where news breaks. It's where Trump is able to directly talk to the country, and it's very interesting how easy it is to target and publish things. But on the same vein, for businesses, that makes it much more challenging, I think.
Yeah. Twitter has always done very well on the personal side because it's really targeted towards, I have a thought, I'm going to just sit on my phone and pop it out. Whereas with businesses, it's harder because really, to compete on Twitter, you have to be posting 5 times a day, which for most people is pretty unachievable unless you have a specific person dedicated to doing that. So it is always tricky for businesses, and Twitter has been in a little bit of an upheaval last year. So they're trying to compete more with Facebook and go more image heavy. Historically, they've been, much more text based than a lot of the other networks.
And you can use Twitter to publish video. Vine died, of course, and that was owned by Twitter. But the publishing platform and the ability to publish live video remains, and that's Periscope.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
But it's still out there, and the analytics continue to get better, which I think is really interesting. If you own your Twitter account and if you're using it, one thing that I've always hoped for, but they haven't ever really done, is given you a bespoke business page on Twitter. Yeah. And so I predicted this for last year, that I thought they were going to do it, and I failed miserably on that prediction. But I really hope that at some point there's a way for businesses to have a business account and let other people just log in without using Hootsuite, without using any third-party tool. I think the power of the tool could be greatly improved by that.
Yeah, right now, if you're not on Twitter, just, so the way that it functions is a business page is functionally the same as a personal profile. The only difference is that you can advertise on it and you get a little bit more analytics. Right. Whereas on Facebook, as Dave showed earlier, you log into your personal account to get to your business page, but it's sort of a separate entity. Right now, the way that Twitter is set up, it's, your business page, you log right into that, and it makes it hard for multiple people to manage because then you are literally handing out passwords and everyone has to log in the same account. Right.
And I think one of the things, and just as I'm scrolling through our feed right now, one of the big challenges that Twitter has right now is the promoted tweets dirtying up the timeline. As I'm scrolling through my own page, BusyWeb's own page, all these promoted tweets are showing up.
Right.
And so theoretically, and luckily they're not, but theoretically these could be in direct competition with BusyWeb.
Yeah.
And so,
could be on there.
So I guess that's a good thing if you are an aggressive competitor, but dirty news feeds are a big problem for Twitter right now because there's one space, there's one page that you get all this content. And so I think it's interesting that Twitter is probably going to come back full circle. It was started as a direct integration with SMS, with text messages. And now we're probably going to get back to that because you're going to see Twitter and Twitter communications channels interweaving with other tools. So sending a tweet. Now you see this on TV actually, where people are doing Twitter voting on America's Got Talent or whatever, right? So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, Twitter's trying to sell itself. It's trying to make some money. It's trying to get something. And so that's a challenge. Awesome. So that's Twitter. Instagram. This Instagram again. It's if you want to know where Instagram is going, just look at Snapchat right now.
Yeah,
So
basically.
it's funny, but Instagram is owned by Facebook, and Snapchat is doing some really cool things. We're going to talk about Snapchat in a second, but the difference is that Snapchat is very much the wild, wild west. And if you're not native on Snapchat, I think there's a much higher barrier.
Yeah.
And so Instagram is like the old people friendly Snapchat almost, right?
Yeah.
So if you weren't a digital native, and if you didn't grow up with a phone in one hand, Instagram is probably the way that you're going to lean.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to figure out how to function. Snapchat just kind of throws you in the deep end.
Right. And again,
have to figure it out.
Our Instagram feed, as I go through this here, if I'm looking at our stuff, you can see some examples of our things, but we do images from our blog posts, and infographics and all that. This is the kind of stuff that we get some feedback on, or we're getting good relationships. It's also a great way to get you into the culture, right? So this was fall back on your clocks, right? And this was one of our biggest Instagram posts of the past few weeks.
Yeah.
And so it's fun, So this did you know stuff, and you can do this. Instagram was at the Renaissance Festival with our flat buzz. So that kind of stuff is interesting, but you can kind of get the feeling for this. So it's an easier to figure out or Snapchat.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel right now anyway. So, but yeah, I don't know, anything that you're seeing with Instagram. And I didn't really talk about video in this, but the Instagram video stuff, it went from 15 seconds to 60 now.
Yeah.
So, we're starting to see that there's more of a bet, right?
Yeah. Instagram is also, because it's owned by Facebook, they tie in very closely together, and Instagram also has its own algorithm, which, to my knowledge, Snapchat does not have one currently.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big differentiator as well. And Instagram is still, since it started mostly as a photo sharing platform in a different way that Snapchat did, it's right now sort of Instagram wearing Snapchat's cape. It's got some features from Snapchat that they're clearly, pulling in. But it is also still a lot more static than I would say Snapchat is, which I'm sure we'll get into in a minute here. But
and I think what's interesting, and I should wait on Snapchat until this, but the filters and all of the crazy things that you can do with Snapchat that kind of make it the wild, wild west. That's pushing it a little bit outside of the reach of the everyday kind of mid-30s, mid-40s marketer person that doesn't use it all the time.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to dedicate like a couple of days to really hammer the heck out of any of the more in-depth tools. I think Instagram is easier to get a hang of.
Yeah.
And
it's much more intuitive.
Yeah. And there are some interfaces on the web for corporate marketers, and there's just nothing like that on the Snap side until you get into like the full advertising suite.
Right.
But that's expensive too.
Yeah.
So, excellent. So let's squick back over here again. And okay, so LinkedIn, kind of flipping back and forth, right? So we're swinging on a pendulum here. LinkedIn's getting more corporate, and I think they continue to kind of flow in whatever direction the river is going.
Yeah.
So this on the screen here is the example of the new page look and feel, which is much, much, much more Facebook-y.
Oh yeah.
and than ever before. The old one was very 2010 circa kind of for pages.
Yeah.
So Microsoft, the new owner of LinkedIn, is giving a little bit more injection of life, but you're also kind of seeing that this is going to turn into a kind of like the Twitter of the corporate world, where it's there's integrations and there's things that you're going to be able to do. Slide share right? If you want to share digital content or documents, SlideShare is owned by LinkedIn, which is owned by Microsoft now. So all of that is kind of dovetailing in. We're probably going to see a much deeper integration with the Microsoft suite of tools with Office. So that's interesting. And there's also a better focus on ads, but everything is getting more graphics heavy and more just kind of pretty, I think. And I think it's just growing up a little bit, which is interesting because it was always kind of purported as the grown-up tool,
right?
But it's finally figuring out where its place is. I don't know. What are you seeing for our clients?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is definitely coming into its identity a little bit more, and honestly trying to have a little bit more fun. It was always sort of viewed as, very professional network, again, very text-based, especially when it started out.
Right.
And now, with more of these integrations with photos and, like you said, it's making it a lot more, just fun to look at. And I think they're trying to tap into that. So you don't just come to LinkedIn, when you're looking for a job, you're coming to LinkedIn regularly and trying to give people content that they want to see.
Yeah. And I'm going to compare and contrast this right now. This is the new version of LinkedIn. This is the beta. But if I go to company/BusyWeb, this is the old version. And so, look at that.
Yeah, very different.
Yeah, it's so much different that it's really, really kind of shocking almost. So if you look at this, you can tell that LinkedIn is getting serious. But it's kind of funny. It almost feels on first glance like Google Plus.
Yeah.
Right. So when Google Plus started copying Facebook, that's the direction it went. So this is kind of more card based. The insights and the things are interesting here. You can see recent updates. You can see posts, of course, but this is way cleaner. Also on this widescreen, especially, you can tell that it's really more geared for mobile than anything else.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's interesting, and it's going to be really crazy to see how this stuff really pans out. Back to our tools. Let's talk about Snapchat. Yes. So crazy. Wild, wild west of the web, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There are weirder ones out there, but if you're looking for this is what digital natives, what the true stereotypical millennials are into and what they do. And a Snapchatter, if you're talking about someone that's on Facebook, so give me your average 40-something person versus your average 20-something person. Your average Facebook person or your average 40-something is probably on Facebook and might check Facebook 30 times a day. Just kind of you whip out your phone and you're checking it, blah, blah, blah. Snapchat, you can post and snap hundreds of times.
Yeah.
And it's like shorthand for communication, period. Right? So I think if you see this, and it's funny because a lot of times on Facebook even, I'll see screenshots of people that have done filters on Snapchat and just posted on their Facebook page.
Yep.
So it's hilarious because it's just that level of tool, and the mapping of screen, the face swaps and all the crazy stuff that you can do. It's the new shorthand for how people connect. If you have a phone glued to your hand and you can use it with impunity, it's kind of what you're going to wind up with in Snapchat.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely, especially the under 25 crowd. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's like something like, 90% of people who are on Snapchat are under the age of 25. It's some crazy high number. So it's really, if that is your key demographic, you definitely need to be paying attention to Snapchat, because that is where they are.
Yeah. and it's a different tool set. One thing that you can do with Snapchat that's a little bit tougher to do with other tools is the geo filtering. And so if people are on Snapchat, again, if these under 25s are on Snapchat and they're nearby, you're going to pop up. And
Yeah.
that's an advertising thing that you can do. So you can do on-demand geofilters. You can do it personally without boosting or without paying. But for companies, this geofiltering and the sponsored geofilters, if you're a coffee shop, you can target so that anybody that's snapping at the mall across the street will see your thing, and they can just walk in with you with their snap or with your snap and get $5 off your coffee.
Yeah, I've seen this being used a lot in events too.
Yes, totally.
Where you can have a special filter and then you want to share it with your friends and get them to come on down and
some of that, like especially the special filters, that's true, like Coca-Cola level stuff, or Red Bull is going to be doing that stuff. This is for companies that have serious budgets to create their own dang filters. Yeah. But like we could do a B filter, and we just need a couple $1 million to do it, right? But yeah, and then the interesting pivot that Snapchat is making right now is the addition of the hardware. They've pulled back. They're not Snapchat anymore. They're Snap Inc. And they're putting out these vending machines for their spectacles. So it's hilarious. They're finally available online now, so you can order them. You don't have to go to the Bay Area and look for the one vending machine. Yeah, you can get the Snap spectacles. But it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. I think it's going to again be that public utility of the web kind of feel around chat.
Right.
So crazy stuff. So I guess the best thing that I can do is for true corporate marketers, the folks that are, again, probably not in the under 25 crowd, but that are trying to make sense of this all. You just need to get a Snapchat account. You need to start playing with it. I'll say, over Halloween, I picked up Snapchat again, and we started goofing with it. And my parents, who are in their 70s or 60s, upper 60s and 70s, they almost passed out from laughing so hard from all the things that you can do with Snapchat. So, we got them on Snapchat now, and they're doing all kinds of silly things. So you just have to be able to, if there was one spot where you had to really be a tinkerer, a professional tinkerer, it's Snapchat.
Yeah.
So then the others, right? So YouTube, YouTube Live is going crazy, and there's now the YouTube for Kids. And some of the other promoted and sponsored content and doing all that, Red and all of that is very interesting. Another kind of, it's so big, and YouTube is responsible for so much content that it's another one of those public utility of the web things. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how they continue to pivot and modify, but I think it's in additional controls and tools that you can use on YouTube. One of our greatest disappointments, frankly, is the fact that Hangouts has been dramatically decontented in favor of YouTube Live. And this is what you're on right now. We're actually on YouTube Live for this webinar or this seminar. So yeah, it's interesting. Ello is interesting, and it's mostly, it was started as the anti-Facebook Facebook. Now it's like hyper niching. And so, it's architecture, and artists are posting things on Ello. House, same thing, niche growth. So, if you are a construction company or do landscaping or do interior design, House is going to be for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pinterest, I probably shouldn't have lumped this in with others because it is pretty huge. And really the ad opportunities are getting pretty interesting with Pinterest. You can use and direct traffic in a way that's hard to replicate other places. So if you sell products and services, Pinterest has a really compelling value proposition. And then apps, the messaging apps in particular, WhatsApp, iMessage, Facebook Messenger, it's the fact is that the way things work now on these or on mobile devices, people expect to be able to chat with you immediately.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that we're going to continue to see, where it's kind of along these lines, and we've talked about it in themes, but people that are true digital natives are now expecting to be able to text their company of choice and get something back. We have an example of this at the end of the seminar here, right before we're done. I'm going to share that, where you can text us to get something.
Yep.
Right. But people expect to be able to chat with you always and constantly. And it's no longer publishing, it's conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so other crystal ball stuff, Jenna?
Let's see. I think it's a pretty comprehensive. Yeah. I think with Snapchat, it'll be interesting to see where they go in terms of advertising, because right now that is their biggest problem that they're having is they're not really that great for advertisers because, like you mentioned, you basically have three options. You can do the geo filter, you can do a special filter, or you can do sponsored stories. Sponsored stories, yeah. Where none of those options are really that great because you're not guaranteed to see them.
And the problem with them for me is that you do need, there's a high barrier to entry for it, and you need to have a significant budget if you want to get traction inside of Snapchat for that.
Yeah.
So,
I'll very pricey.
I'll say from that perspective, Snapchat is going to be more like Facebook. Facebook and Instagram are going to continue to be more like Snapchat and offer more fun, play around kind of goofy things.
Yeah.
We're also probably going to see deeper integration with specific apps. And so, you'll be able to get your feed from your website, or your feed from Facebook or Snapchat, or your favorite tool here. You'll be able to get that via RSS, or you'll be able to just subscribe. And a third tool that we haven't even thought of yet is going to be this master kind of thing that's going to house all of your stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So some of that you can do already in tools like Feedly, but
or
Slack for sure, for sure. And Slack is 100% chat based. But that's the kind of thing where people are going to need help managing this stuff.
Yeah.
And the need to swap between, what did we cover, like 7 apps today?
Yeah.
Seven things. The swiping and popping between those apps and having any kind of a sense of cohesiveness, certainly as a marketer, but as a consumer, is also going to be tough.
Yeah.
So, it's this data is probably going to get democratized by people just being able to subscribe and say, okay, well, I want one master dashboard, and I just want to pull up this new, Uber whatever, right? And don't get me started on Uber, but Uber whatever, that's going to give you one-click access to all of your stuff. And that might just be at the OS level. So iPhones and Androids might just have dashboards. And you see that right now in the stream on your iPhone. I'm an iPhone user, and if you swipe to the right from the home screen, you get all of this feed stuff from all of your apps.
Yep. And
so that's pulling it all together. And you're going to start seeing that because we need more stuff to help us translate this. And, it's like the wild, wild west of the web. So if you look back 7 years, you can also look ahead like 1 year in social media and see where some of that consolidation is going to go. So if you have additional questions or additional thoughts, we would love to take those questions. I'll take them offline at this point. You can just email me at dave@busyweb.com or jenna@busyweb.com. But I am going to share one last time and just wrap everything up for us here. And we'll cover this this way. So what do you do from now? First, always focus on value and serving your market. Measure your results, and you have to be able to tinker. If you're not willing to dig in and play with social media, you're not going to get a whole lot of results. I mentioned this before, but if you want to see what an example of a text-based communication is, open up your phone and text to 22828 and text busy, B-I-Z-Z-Y. You got to watch autocorrect, but if you text busy to 22828, you're going to get a note back, and you can join our email list so that you'll get regular updates. We send tips and tricks via our emails. We also send out invites to events, and you could subscribe at the level that you want. But if you're interested in finding out what's happening on social media all the time, go ahead and send that text to 22828. Finally, if you would like more details or help, here's how to get a hold of me. Again, it's Dave at or Jenna at busyweb.com. Our number 612-4BUSY-O. If you would like a buzz report to see how you're doing in digital marketing, just go to busyweb.com/buzz, and what you see on the screen there is what you're going to see. Your name, a keyword that you'd like to get found for, your information, and click scan, and you'll get that back in 15 to 45 seconds. Super, super easy. Again, I am Dave with BusyWeb, and Jenna, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a lot of fun. And if you liked BuzzCast, or if you'd like to see more of this kind of stuff, please send us a note. As one final request, if you wouldn't mind giving us a review on Facebook or Google or whatever, that helps a lot. We spend a lot of time to be as useful as possible to you. And if you wouldn't mind giving us that nod back, that would be awesome. And it shows up really well on Jenna's scorecards. So it makes Jenna look good. So thank you very much. And on behalf of BusyWeb and all of our team, and Jenna, right? Thanks. And we hope that you'll continue to generate buzz without getting stung. Have a great one.
Bye.